with South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, good to see you tonight. The only thing that Biden seems to be able to rally the world around is, at this point, just undermining America and talking about how we're all systemically racist.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. The bad guys were afraid of Trump. Who's afraid of Biden? I mean, the Europeans are talking about doing a trade deal with China as China dismantles Hong Kong's democracy and is engaging in genocide against the Uyghurs. So this just blows my mind. They're talking about going back into the Iranian nuclear deal, even though Iran hasn't changed its behavior at all. I can tell you one thing. The Israelis miss a strong American president. The Mexican president blamed Biden for the spike in illegal immigration. We've had a 160% increase in illegal immigration in the last 6 months because Biden doesn't know what he's doing on the border.
Well, here are the big issues that Biden thinks he can rally Europe around. Watch.
80 years ago, Prime Minister Winston Churchill and President Franklin Roosevelt signed an agreement. Today, we build on that commitment with a revitalized Atlantic Charter, speaking directly to the key challenges of this century: cybersecurity, emerging technologies, global health, and climate change.
He talked about an international rules-based order, quite different from what Winston Churchill was talking about all those years ago, Senator.
Well, let me give you two examples. We've had 2 cyber attacks on our economy coming from Russian territory by Russian organizations I think are given a pass by the Russian government. They're probably working together, to be honest with you. And you have growing evidence that the coronavirus came out of a lab in China, not nature. And is Biden asking the Europeans to do anything to push back against Russian cyber terrorism? Is he even talking about what should we do to rein China in? No, this is just all fluff and happy talk. I miss Trump.
Well, Senator, you argue in a new op-ed that early and near total dismissal of the lab leak theory played a prominent role in Trump's defeat in 2020 in the presidential race. Explain.
Well, okay, in February 2020, 27 American scientists wrote an op-ed saying that anybody who suggested the coronavirus came out of the Chinese lab is a right-wing nut. Then later on, 5 other scientists said the same thing. Why is that important? If, in fact, the coronavirus came out of the Chinese lab, like a lot of people suspected, people in America would be outraged and want somebody to take it to China. That would have been the biggest issue in the entire campaign. Who can make China pay for infecting the world? Secondly, by shutting down this legitimate question about where the coronavirus came from, they reinforced the idea that Trump was a nut. So the scientists who signed that letter in February 2020, I got a question for them. What evidence did you have to make you feel so strong there was no other alternative than it coming from nature? Was this a political document or a scientific document? To Dr. Fauci, I'm not challenging science. I'm questioning the motive of the scientist who definitively said in February 2020 a lab leak was a right-wing conspiracy idea. Well, why did they say that then? They're tied to the Wuhan lab. They have a self-interest to shut down that inquiry. I think it changed the 2020 election. I really do.
Well, it obviously did. I mean, I don't say it's obvious, but it 100% did. As did the dismissal of all these early treatments and just blowing them off, saying, oh, they don't work. It turns out now, of course, this big study about hydroxychloroquine just published, 200% increase in survival if it's used with zinc and azithromycin. And so all these people's lives could have been saved, but Anthony Fauci and the medical cartel, as we call them, dismissed it and trashed the motives of President Trump and any of us who interviewed the top experts who said it worked. Outrageous.
That's the main.
People died because of this.
Who suggested not only did people die, but anybody who suggested it may have come from the lab in China and incompetence in the lab in China infected the entire world, they were written off as a right-wing nut. Tom Cotton, President Trump, was vilified. I've got a letter going to Dr. Fauci from myself and Senator Paul asking him about the op-ed piece of the two scientists who believe that the sequencing of the coronavirus proves almost positively that it came from a man-made laboratory experiment, not from nature. So how could they know so certain in 2020 February that the lab leak theory was a bunch of right-wing propaganda when it seems to be more likely than not today?
Do you think Anthony Fauci has the confidence of the American people and should be sitting in this position getting $400,000 a year, given everything we know, not just on that issue, but all these other medical issues? Senator, do you really think he should be in that position today?
No, I smell a rat. This letter written by these scientists, I think, was designed to stop an inquiry because their ass was in a sling. They actually had a relationship with the Wuhan lab, and if it had been a lab leak, Trump would have been right. And oh my God, what would have happened if Trump was right about the source of the virus? This doesn't pass the smell test. I am not a scientist, but I understand conflict of interest, and I am going to ask until the cows come home, how did you know for sure in 2020 it came from nature? How did you exclude the lab leak theory? And why is it more prominent today than it was back then? What happened?
Senator Neil. No, I think these emails came out. That's what happened, and they knew they had to answer some questions. Senator,
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, I said, Senator, that the emails for Fauci are what the blue dress was for Clinton. Okay, taking you back to the old impeachment manager days. Okay, so it's good to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us.